Ladies and gentlemen, if it's 3 p.m., if it's Tuesday, and if it's EVS, it means that we are ready to begin a panel about mobility as a service. My name is Maciej, MAZUR, and I'm Managing Director in the Polish Alternative Fuels Association. We are one of AVERE members. I have a huge pleasure to host today's panels, I suppose in one of the most interesting subjects that we can find here during the conference. We've got quite a lot of answers to answer today. Among them, how to convince customers to drive electric shared vehicles, how we can fully electrify those fleets, and at least what are the relevant barriers of doing so. We are in the position in Poland that we feel that mobility as a service is extremely important. Why it's important for us? We are a country that is not on a developed stage in the field of e-mobility. Numbers are pretty low. But when we are talking about mobility as a service, we are one of the leaders. For example, in Wrocław, there's 200 electric vehicles, 40 of them Renault Zoes. Nissan Leafs as well. In Warsaw, there are 500 BMW i3. It's really working. 25% of electric vehicles in Poland are the one driving in electric car-sharing fleets. I suppose we'll touch those matters today during our panel discussion. The plan is that we'll start with a keynote, and then we will move to interesting panel discussions, and I'm sure that it's gonna be interesting because our speakers guarantee that. The keynote will be delivered by Ms. Corinne PAKEY, Deputy Program Director, Mobility at GROUPE Renault France. Corinne, I'd like you to invite me on the stage. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. One day, my son told me, I don't need to buy a car, I've got a mobile. To be a success, the electrification of fleets must be driven by customer needs. And be deployed thanks to mobility services. Mobility accessible to all is a shared responsibility between public and private actors. It concerns both congested cities and isolated areas. The good news is that there is a common trend for more mobility and less ownership among all types of actors, private users, companies, and cities. Let's focus on private users. They are diversifying their mobility from private cars only to more soft modes and shared services, especially young people. In suburban rural, car is still preferred, but users are open to new mobility when available. Car cost increase, regulatory pressure on car usage from cities will encourage this trend. Second, companies. They are involved in this transformation, especially through companies' mobility plans. And electric vehicles are chosen to drive this transformation. Third, big cities. They are facing huge challenges: traffic, pollution, parking, road safety, noise accessibility, and are challenging individual car uses to increase citizen quality of life. Fourth, public authorities support new mobility services as long as they complement well mass transit and are integrated into multimodal governance. If we want to make the difference collectively, tomorrow mobility must be more responsible, so electric and clean. It must also be inclusive, propose solutions to the saturated urban environment, but also to isolated areas. Why electric vehicles are well suited for mobility services, including car sharing? It is because they do not require refueling. They have the potential to charge wherever they are parked, allowing them to be a major player in new mobility trends. They can also access crowded areas, such as city centers, where access to vehicles with internal combustion engines is limited. The electric brings a real comfort to the journeys. The vehicle is silent, without vibration, and the driving is gentle. At Renault, we are convinced that electric vehicles are more than just a car. They carry a battery that helps to balance power grid loads, and those have a major role to play in the energy domain. The group is already investing in the development of the global electric ecosystem that favors energy transitions. Electric vehicles will help integrating more renewables in the energy mix and contribute to the creation of smart low-carbon city. Renault is already developing smart charging solutions for EVs, and we are also developing solutions based on second life battery. You can easily understand that why electric vehicles are at the center of Groupe Renault's strategy. During the last 10 years, Groupe Renault has always been at the leading edge of electric mobility development. And as a generalist car manufacturer, we want an electric mobility accessible to as many people as possible. Electric vehicles are at the center of our strategy for three main reasons. They are a real driver of growth and competitiveness. They are easy-to-use vehicles, and they represent the best immediately available solution to the issues of climate change and air quality. If you want to electrify fleets and reach customer needs, we must first propose a wide range of electric vehicles adapted to all customer needs. At Groupe Renault, we've got the widest range of electric vehicles thanks to Twizy, Zoe, Kangoo, Master ZE, and in Korea, we also sell RSM SM3 ZE. And in September 2019, the sixth model in electric range, CTKZ, will arrive first in China. In 2022, our range will total 8 electric and 12 electrified vehicle models. All of those vehicles are adapted for car sharing with specific pre-equipment to facilitate device integration. We are also able to install car sharing boxes from different providers directly in our plant. If we want to electrify the fleets and reach the customer needs, we must also provide different types of services to cover all the needs. In response to rapid changes in customer behaviors, Groupe Renault is offering new mobility services through car sharing solutions, ride-hailing, short-term rental, and by 2022, we'll propose mobility services with autonomous robot vehicles. EV leader in Europe, it is therefore quite natural that Groupe Renault is also the leader in the car sharing electric cars in Europe, with 7,000 electric vehicles in operation. We have a strong experience in this market. Renault is developing electric car sharing across Europe at every scale. For example, we are working with in partnership with Ferrovial in Madrid, with ZT, 650 Zoe are in operation, with GreenMobility, which is here, with 400 Zoe in Copenhagen and much in other countries too, with Totem in Marseille and Montpellier, with 200 Twizy, with Corinne in Bologna, etc. We operate directly with our dealer network with Renault Mobility since 2016. shared electric mobility centered on collective housing are existing also in different countries, like in Denmark, where ZOE are made available for residents by TADA. And a South Korean state-owned company, LH, has chosen Twizy to expand its fleet of shared mobility vehicles. It is an affordable service for households which are often low income. If we operate also, ride-hailing. We have acquired Marcel in September 27, and since we have developed a specific electric offering based on ZOE called ECO. So, if we want to succeed, the mobility services with electric vehicles must contribute to the improvement of the quality of life and be fully integrated to the smart ecosystem. To improve quality of life, the first challenge is to promote fair and inclusive mobility for drivers and also for passengers. For example, with Marcel Eco, we offer an electric ride-hailing service in Paris that is socially responsible, with the cheapest solution for customers and profitable business model for drivers. Another example of responsible mobility solution that we support with our CSR program is Totem Mobi car sharing service, operated by a startup offering extremely affordable access to mobility with Twizy. A second challenge is the integration in the different services in the local ecosystem with a multimodal and seamless way, including public transport, because to give up a private vehicle, customers need to be ensured that there are alternative solutions and that are easy to use. To succeed, a strong involvement from local authorities is necessary. We can't do that by ourselves. The third challenge in this growing complexity is to be able to work together with public partners like regions or cities, or private, both startups, tech companies, etc., in a collaborative and test and learn approach with all the stakeholders, including users. I will give 3 examples. Renault EasyFlex, it's an experimental utility vehicle that inaugurates a new innovative collaborative approach. It was conceived and designed to allow us better understand the future uses of urban delivery. A first experiment is ongoing with Groupe La Poste. A second example is EasyPod, an exploratory electric and autonomous vehicle for on-demand travel presented in Vivatech, and is designed for very short distances. The idea is to provide micro-mobility for people at very low speed or for good, with the very small footprint. Renault EasyPod will evolve in line with feedback from customers, from public authorities, from fleet operators. A last example, the field operation test Paris-Saclay Autonomous Lab. The objective is to test and complete autonomous transport system, including autonomous vehicle, fleet supervision, connected infrastructure, and client applications. It will help us to define the best way to deploy such a service. As you can see, it's impossible. The mobility of tomorrow has to be shared, and it's a collective responsibility. It's impossible for a car manufacturer to work by himself, and we know it. Electric, shared, connected, and autonomous mobility represent an opportunity for cities as the expected benefits are major. Flexibility and availability of services, fluidity of traffic, impact on air quality, economy of space in cities. I will conclude with a small video that illustrates our vision of the future. Thank you for your attention. So,
Corinne, thank you very much for that very interesting presentation and for a great movie. Please stay with me on the stage. Please have a seat. Now, let's move to the panel discussion. And let me invite here on the stage our today's speakers. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Pierre SOULARD, Head of Urban Mobility Department of Lyon Métropole, France. Nice to meet you as well. Anders Wall, Chief International Officer, GreenMobility from Denmark. Mr. Jochen de SMET, Senior Energy Consultant, the New Drive Belgium and AVERE Belgium as well, President of AVERE Belgium. Mr. Edwin, it's gonna be difficult, BESTEBREURTJE, if I'm right, Partner and Senior Consultant, FIER Automotive and Mobility. Sorry for my pronunciation. Sorry. And last but not least, Mr. Christophe ARNAUD, CEO, Blue Systems Smart Mobility from France. All right, so let's make this panel dynamic. If you'd like to add something, to share with us your opinions, feel free to do so. But let me start by asking Corinne, because it all seems like the future. It's all really, really cool. But on the other hand, there is one simple but important question. Why you, as OEM, Group Renault, intend to propose mobility as a service that will eventually reduce the number of cars? So you're gonna sell less.
in fact, sustainable and affordable mobility is a shared responsibility, as I already said. So if we want to succeed, we have to work with public and private actors. And the mobility will stay industrial, because if we want to be mobile, we need vehicles, and if we need vehicles, we need car manufacturers. And in fact, this mobility revolution is a good opportunity for a car manufacturer to generate new type of business.
All right, and could you tell us something about the challenges of becoming a service provider?
Yes, it's a quite big challenge, because in fact, first challenge is to switch from a car manufacturer to service providers. We used to manufacture vehicle and sell them to dealers, and then just now we are providing services to customers. It's quite different. So to do that, we need partners, good partners. And the second challenge is that we used to produce vehicle by ourselves, and now we have to be co-builder with partners of mobility solutions in an ecosystem. It's a big challenge.
Thank you very much. And my last question in this part is a pretty easy one. We've seen quite a lot of car sharing programs. We've got quite a lot of them in Poland. I suppose in every single country there are quite a lot of them, but not every single one is a successful one. So what is key for a successful car sharing program? How to do it right?
You have to have the right car to do it, of course.
Obviously.
Yes, a seamless service. It's very important, with helpline 24/7, and you have to find a way to park very easily the cars.
Right. Thank you very much. The next to speak is Pierre. Pierre, you are representing our hosting city, Lyon. So could you tell us a few words on mobility as a service from your perspective as the head of the Urban Mobility Department of Lyon? And we've seen here quite a lot of car sharing programs, electric scooters. So is it working?
Yes, first of all, because a few words about mobility policy in Grand Lyon. Because it's as in large city, we are facing issues in climate change, human health, and natural resources preservation. So, and due in particular to mobility purpose, Grand Lyon Metropolis has to make its mobility system more efficient and more sustainable. And for us, a more sustainable mobility is a mobility more shared, like car sharing, carpooling, micro-mobility, car hailing, and it's also a matter of sharing public space. A mobility more on demand, and that's the point about mobility as a service. Mobility more connected for safety, reliability, and connected and autonomous vehicles, and more clean, zero-emission mobility. So to summarize, mobility policy with CITRAL, our public transport authority, aims to rebalance the exclusive use of private cars, individual thermic cars, to more sustainable means of transportation. It deals with public transport development, new metro line, new tram line, etc., and optimization of this public transport network. Active mode enhancing, more than 1,000 kilometers of bicycle lane will be achieved by 2020. New mobility service deployment, car sharing, Bluely since 5 years, carpooling since 10 years, micro-mobility since a few weeks, a few months. And it's also a matter of public regulation. I talk about sharing space. So we have to reallocate public space and to use our traffic regulation system to more safety and comfort for active modes, more efficiency for public transport, and more and contain traffic flow or decrease traffic jams in case of traffic hazard.
All right, and so what can offer mobility as a service approach for Lyon in this case?
4 points for us for mobility as a service. The first one is to provide alternative mobility offers to individual and private car. That's what we do since years. It's also providing an accurate and complete multimodal information system to make this complex mobility offer legible. And it's, as an example, it's our Optimode program, and now it's the Only Move service, providing a multimodal ticketing platform to make sure that all those new offers are available and are accessible to everyone. It's our past trouble, the multimodal ticketing project, and the next new public transport ticketing. And then, by the usage of all those data and all the data, we wanted to enhance the mobility services by optimizing in real time all those offers. So that is the aim of mobility as a service for Grand Lyon Metropolis. And it's also a matter of changing mobility behavior. And we have to act on offer, but also on demand. And on demand, it's we have some project about incentive communication, attractive combined pricing, or probably constraints. And to change behavior, for example, we declassified the highway A6, A7 that crosses through the city center, and we will dedicate the emergency lane to a bus rapid transit, and we will dedicate the rapid lane to a carpooling and zero-emission vehicles by the next year.
All right, you touched the subject that is really important for us all here. And it's my duty to ask the question about electric vehicles. So what about electromobility? Do you think that it's a part of mobility as a service? Are you going to go towards this direction?
Yes, as I said, the future of mobility is also clean mobility and zero emission mobility. So mobility, electromobility is part of the answer. And now the public transport network is 75% of the trips made by public transport are electric modes. Subway, tramway, cable car, electric buses, and in the next years it will be increased because the Central will replace the buses by electric ones. Autonomous electric and on-demand shuttles are also in tests. We have 3 tests. The first one 2 years ago in Confluence, Navly. The next one in an industrial area just next to it, to here, the MIA by Expercité shuttle. And the next one will be the autonomous shuttle by TCL for the stadium. So it's part of the answer because we want to deploy this kind of autonomous and on-demand shuttle to enhance the attractivity and the coverage of the public transport network. With our partner, EasyVia, we are about to deploy all over the Grand Lyon metropolis more than 600 electric charging points by the next years, by 2020. And it can become a support for new car sharing system, for example, for the renewal of the fleets of taxis, and it will help people to change their own car in electric ones. And from the 1st January 2020, a large low emission zone will be deployed all over the center of the inner ring in Grand Lyon. It's dedicated for trucks and delivery vehicles that will be restricted to access the city center. And then at last, and we have some subsidies. We will subsidizing zero emission vehicle purchase for this for the professionals.
Thanks a lot for that. And let's move to one, I suppose, crucial subject in the field of having all those ways of transport in one city. Electric scooters, car sharing, and so many more. Is it not a mess how to combine all of them together? Because in Poland we've got a huge problem with electric scooters right now. In Warsaw itself, there's more than 3,000 electric scooters, and they are everywhere, really everywhere. And we do not know how to treat them as a car, as a bike, or as a pedestrian, because there is no law. How do you deal with this here in Lyon? Because I'm returning back today to Warsaw. I'd like to tell our government how to do it right.
Yes, we are more and more new mobility providers, more and more new mobility services, and it's a good thing to be sure that there is some alternative to individual thermic cars. But our role as a public transport authority is less to provide by ourselves new mobility services, but to make sure and more to regulate private initiatives. But to be enough aware of the impact of those new mobility solutions, we have to get information, such as usage data, to be sure that, for example, free-floating e-scooters are effective to the world mobility scheme. That's why we are interested by testing new mobility platform provided by Blue Systems. It's important for us to understand how those new mobility services are used to provide a balanced regulation framework and to have an effective controls tool.
All right, thanks a lot. I know that there's one comment from Jochen, please.
Yes, thank you. Now, as a consultant, we get confronted with the same problem. In Belgium, in Brussels, in Antwerp, there are a lot of mobility providers sharing initiatives and also a lot of shared electric vehicles, charging points that needs to be operated and that needs to be exclusive, dedicated to these electric vehicles, which is a huge problem in, for instance, in a city like Antwerp or Brussels. But we have also shared bikes, electric bikes and scooters, and there is no form of regulation or triggering in this kind of cities. So now the city of Antwerp, as I think the first one, certainly in Belgium, but I haven't heard of any initiative in the other cities of Europe, have installed a permitting initiative. So when you are driving, or when you have an initiative on shared mobility, if it is a car, if it is a bike, if it is a step, an electric step, either one, there is now, at this moment, is there a tender in Antwerp where you can candidate to service the community of Antwerp with shared initiatives. And yeah, you don't need to see that as a very negative way of regulating the market, because what we have seen in Antwerp is that you, in this way, attract the kind of shared mobility you want in your city and you can handle. You cannot expect that from the one day to another that suddenly every vehicle will be shared. It is a pathway. You need to evolve in a certain direction towards the amount of shared mobility that your city can handle, and that consumers and citizens and visitors of the city are asking for that. Now, what was important in this permitting system, the first perspective from the city point of view was that there was a knowledge sharing from the car sharing or bike sharing platform towards the city. The city wanted data to write some policies on that. So if there are, I can say, at a certain moment in Antwerp was confronted with a Volkswagen initiative, PAKEY, that has set about 300 vehicles at 2 days in Antwerp. Shared mobility, all were electric or gas-driven vehicles, 300 in a couple of days. So that was a huge amount of cars suddenly in one congested city like Antwerp, and they were happy about it because it was shared mobility, but they saw they were in some way burdening the citizens of the city of Antwerp, because some people lost their parking spots in this street because of the shared initiative. So the first thing they wanted to know as a city of Antwerp, so how many people of Antwerp get rid of their car because there was an initiative like PAKEY in the city of Antwerp. That was the first thing they wanted to know, but PAKEY wasn't ready to share all the data
But
about
what were the results? How many people? What were the results of the study? I mean, how many people do not want to have a car instead of having?
Yeah,
a
that was the question. I don't know the numbers, what came out of it, but there were several people who got rid of their car because they. You must know, in Belgium we had some investigations on that, and a normal Belgian person who is going to work and who is going back to home and uses a car for private life is average using his car for 23 kilometers a day. 23. We are a very small region, a very small country, but people are, all people, we have 6 million cars in Belgium. So there is a lot of congestion and a lot of traffic jams in Belgium. So sharing mobility is a solution for us, but it needs to be put in the right way, and that is, it is a problem. It is a solution, but it is also a big opportunity for a city like Brussels, like Antwerp, to have it in the right way they want. Like in Brussels, there are now the big amounts of electric steps that are now put in place. Now, what we have seen is that Brussels is declining, so you can go on top, or you can go the lower point of Brussels, and all the steps were used from below to upstairs of Brussels. So all the steps were available on the northern side of Brussels, and they were leased at the southern side at some moment. So Antwerp has put this permitting system in place, and yeah, there was that gives some perspective for fleet providers to have some timeline. For instance, you have 5 years a permit to build your shared mobility system in the city of Antwerp, and you can go into discussion and to a dialogue with the city of Antwerp to discuss. We have now a number of, for instance, 300 vehicles, but we see that they are overused, so we can grow if we can agree on that. So there is a timeline, there is a number. You have to explain some aspects of coverage, because they want not certain parts of the city covered by electric vehicles or shared mobility. They want the complete the city, not the city center, but all the surroundings they want covered with shared mobility. It is a huge impact on parking space, but it has also a positive effect on the low emission zone. So, and the last aspect that candidates and shared mobility providers need to deliver on towards the city is the maintenance model, because it's very important that all electric steps, all electric vehicles are in the best condition to be used and to be shared to other people, because a damaged car will not be used by other participants or other citizens of this city. So.
All right, and in your opinion, something should be done on a European level, on a country level, or on a level of municipalities, or maybe on every single level? Because, for example, I don't know how it works here in Lyon, but yesterday we were trying to use electric scooter, and we were not able to tell if we can use it on a street or on a pathway, because we do not know the same in Poland. So it would be good to know what it really is, and how to do it right. Should we work on a European level, on a country, or just give municipalities some freedom in this field?
I think that at the end of the day, it's up to the operator to tell you as a user, as a customer, how you should actually use it and where you can go. But we do need some regulations. We do need to have clear guidance on what to do for car sharing, what to do for scooter sharing, and so on. But I think it also has to be done by the individual city, because to have the same system all over Europe, I think we will never agree on that. It's gonna take too long, and we need to have the changes made now.
All right, thank you very much. Anders, so please tell us something more about your company and your view of the future of shared mobility.
Well, we can only dream, but I think to begin with and put it a little bit into perspective, and why we, and I think most of our colleagues in the business are working with car sharing, is of course that we see some tremendous changes in the cities. One is that we have urbanization. More and more people are moving into the city. Corinne was showing it before as well. By 2030, we'll be 5 billion people living in the cities. And if we keep bringing cars into the city, the congestion that we see today, the noise, the parking issues, of course, they're only going to get worse. And at the end of the day, it impacts all of us. It's time wasted from things we would like to do, which costs, So it really has to have we need to look at it from a different perspective, reduce the number of vehicles. We even did a small comparison saying if the BRICS countries were to have the same ratio in cars as we do in Europe, then we have to triple the global car fleet from 1 billion to 3 billion. And then, I mean, if we have problems today, then imagine what's going to happen. The second one is of course sustainability. I think it ties very much into EVs, that we need to make a positive change in the city environment. 24% of CO2 emissions today are from transportation, and this is only going to grow, especially if the car fleets are continuing to grow. So we do need to reduce the number of private cars in the cities. This is the only way. We need to do it from a better type of vehicle, so it has to be electric and zero emission. From GreenMobility's perspective, we believe we've come up with a solution for that, or at least part of the solution. I think it has to do with a lot of different partners in this project. Today we work in Copenhagen and in Oslo with a combined fleet of 650 EVs, serving more than 50,000 customers. And I think for what you were saying before about the data, it is a crucial part that we have to work closely with the city. And we actually did a study among our users on the reduction of cars. Yeah. And just less than 5% of our users had within a year and a half sold their private car to switch to our solution. So we can see, although it's still small numbers, it does have an effect. We are changing mobilities and we are reducing number of private cars in the city. We also see changes in behavior. We saw specific data on some of the fleet being initially in what we saw. This is a weird place. It's in the outskirts of our operational zone. But then when we looked into the data behind, it was actually customers who were living even further away from the city, still owning their own car, of course. But then they took the trip to the edge of our zone and switched to a shared electric solution. So thereby still reducing a car in the city. And for the user, of course, there's a benefit because there's no parking fees for that day. So I think it is about finding the solutions that can work both as a company. And at the end of the day, we are a commercial company and we need to make a profitable business in this. But we can only do it by working together with the cities.
All right. Profitable business, that sounds good. Because there is this common saying that the future of mobility is electric, clean, and it should be cheap. So how to combine electric and cheap? How to convince some car-sharing operators that electric vehicles is the right move? Not only because of the environmental issues, sure, they are important, but as well about money. How to convince them that they should follow your example, for example?
Well, I could almost say why not? Of course, we do see there's a cost level, but at the end of the day, it's about understanding your business, understanding the cost drivers that's in your business, and of course also working very much on the data, seeing how do we position the fleet, when do we charge, how do we charge, and that compared. We actually see that we have quite a lean model in our operation, but of course it's something we've developed over time. We don't see a need to change into an ICE car. Actually, we see that we can operate at a same or even a lower cost level when we compare to some of our competitors that are using non-EVs.
All right, so let's focus for a moment on this part, how to get some fees, how to do it right. So the same question I asked Corinne, how to establish the car sharing, working car sharing, the really good one.
And I would repeat, I think, what some of Corinne was saying as well, that it is about cooperation. But initially, we look at a city and say, what kind of mobility types do we have today already? And we believe that it has to be a combination of 3 different types of mobility for it to really work. One is long distance, classic public transport, trains and buses. We can't work without them. And I think also important to say that where many have a notion that we are competing with public transport, we actually are not. We are complementing each other. The second one is short distance, so good bicycles, electric kick scooters for the really short drive, and of course the mid distance for shared solutions. And when we have all 3 of them, then we don't have a need for a private car. But if one of them is missing, then you do need to own a car to live in that city. So I think it's imperative that we work with the city, we work with the public transport company, and of course all the other operators as well, that this trinity needs to be there. We need all 3 of them in place. Of course, we need parking solutions. Even though our cars are not parked as much as the private cars, we still need to find solutions for parking and working with the city on this. Charging. Luckily, this is growing all around Europe. We see clear ambitions, clear plans for putting in more chargers, whether it's the city doing it or private operators operating a fleet of hundreds of EVs. Of course, we do need to have some charging infrastructure there. I'm quite confident that this will evolve, and within 1-2 years, then it's no longer an issue that we actually we're talking about.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move to our another speaker, Edwin. please tell us about the good moves, about emas.eu, so about your commitment to the mobility as a service.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I will explain a little bit about that. First about good moves, because I'm working for FIER Automotive, and we were involved in 2013, 2014 in a European project, what's called Innovate. And based on that, we cooperated with regions like Allgäu in the south of Germany. And that was not an urban region, but a rural area. And they had a electric car sharing program there. And it was a stakeholder model because the Hochschule and all other companies in the region, they had shared electric vehicles for their employees. Based on that, we thought, okay, in the Netherlands, we also have a region like that, which is Limburg, the south of Limburg. And back then, there were already car sharing programs in the big cities, but not in the rural area. And the thing was that also in Limburg, like in other rural areas, public transport is almost not available. It's difficult. So we saw a lot of people using their own car to go from home to their work because they had one meeting per day, and they used their own car also for that business. Based on that, we thought, let's do it different. Let's let the companies invest in cars, in electric cars, only fully electric cars. And we help them to let the cars be shared within their employees. So we did set up an app and a platform, a small platform, and that was called eCar Share. And we worked together with Nissan, with Nissan Leaf, because there we were allowed to put some technology in the cars. And that helped, and we grew until 2016 to 25 vehicles. But then the other brands of car, they said, yeah, could be interesting. BMW, Hyundai, and also Renault. They were more and more open to sharing electric vehicles. And so they said, you are allowed to put the technology also in our cars. So now at the moment, we have Good Moves, which is the sharing platform. And that is in more brands in the south of Limburg, but also in Brabant. And we combined it also with electric bikes, because they were also shared. Because we saw when you have a shared car for business at your company, then you can use a bike to do the trip to the company. So we stimulated bikes and electric bikes while sharing the cars for business during the day. And there were stakeholders like the city of Sittard of Geleen. They first had 5 vehicles only for their own employees, but later on they also shared the vehicles for citizens. So the sharing platform is now in more cities, with companies, with cities itself. And the thing that we do is the back office, and we do also the cleaning and the organization, but also stimulating the people in workshops, but also in one-to-one visits. What is electric driving? When you, for example, start a Renault Zoe or start a Nissan Leaf, it's a little bit different, but you don't hear anything. So we help them for that. Last year, we did start up also a cooperation with We Drive Solar, with Mr. Robin Berg, because they had the Renault Zoe's in their fleet, and they also were starting with a platform like Good Moves for the back office. And now they're also together with Renault with the vehicle to grid. So it's a next step of sharing, because they also share your energy in your own house, but also in the area around you. And we started in another European project, which is called EMAS. And in EMAS, it's an AMA project, so Electric Mobility Europe project, one of the 13 or so. And there we cooperate with Urban Institute in Berlin, and also with MoveAbout in Sweden and Austria. And there the aim is, like a sharing platform that we have, Renault has, there are a lot of sharing platforms, very small scales. And for example, I can open cars in Utrecht, in the south of the Netherlands, with my app. But when I'm here in Lyon, I need another app, or I cannot be a member of that. So when I'm here, I cannot have a shared vehicle. the nice steps that you have here in Lyon, yeah, I have to be a member of that. And I heard that there are only not 1, but 8 organizations having apps like that. So the thing is that we want to stimulate, and I don't know how to start, but we started within EMAS to have a lot of more and more standardization based on open standards. And the example that we use is the OCPI, because a few years ago, charging infrastructure had the same problem. In your own region, you can charge your car and pay it. When you go abroad to, for example, Germany or to France, you have a problem because the charging station doesn't recognize your paying card.
Sure, we've
So
got the same
based on
problem
OCPI
during
on
our
the
trip,
charging side, we are now starting cooperating internationally to see if it's possible to have sharing platforms talking the same language. So open standardization, helping that people, when they drive with a We Drive Solar Renault Zoe in Utrecht, they can also drive sharing Renault Zoe here in Lyon with the same system and the same standardization.
So there should be an international standard for mobility as a service. Yep.
I think it will be a good aim to go for. I also know it will be very difficult, because when I talk only about the Netherlands, I know it is a really growing market, and a sharing platform like we have, I think there are more than 20 already in the Netherlands, and we have 200 vehicles. I know that there are others with 50 vehicles, with 500 vehicles. So it starts very small, and I think when you want to have it standardized, you better can start now, because when everybody is back and has his own standards, then you are too late. So I hope, and that is one of the aims that we have with EMAS.
Yeah, I suppose that's the biggest problem in the field of mobility as a service, because that's the same problem in charging sector as well. We've traveled here from Warsaw to Lyon using a couple of cards, a couple of applications, and it's always the situation that you are not sure if the one you've got will work. So yeah, it's a very, very big problem. But do you think it's really something we can do? Because we are trying to do the same projects in Poland, and we know that all the companies are saying, yeah, it would be great to integrate, but you know, we've got our own customers, we've got our own marketing. We do not want to be a part of something bigger, because we will lose. And is there a chance that we'll have something like Booking.com in the field of making hotel bookings? That one app that will be working in one city, not to say one country or on a level of Europe. Is there a chance for something like this, having so many players on the market? Because I think that's the biggest problem, to go public, to have this mass consumer. That you've got to have, for example, in Warsaw, you've got 7 electric scooter car rental services, 7. So you've got to have 7 different apps. It's something incredible. I'm not using this at all, because it's always a different electric scooter than the app I have on my mobile. So yeah.
I think still the example of the charging infrastructure is interesting, because if you look at the OCPI, and it started in the Netherlands with, we had all kinds of cards with their own customers, and they were also like this. I want to keep my own customer. But at the moment you can see that when you have still, I have New Motion as a card, for example, I can use it everywhere in every charging station. And not only in the Netherlands, but also now internationally. And still the New Motion has its own customers, but there are also 20 or 30 others. We did a tour, and your colleagues did it from Poland to here, and we did it from the Netherlands to here with the cars. And the only ones who didn't have problems at the moment are the Teslas, because they have their own network. And the other ones at the moment in the Netherlands, no problem, because you can charge everywhere with every card. When you go abroad, it's a little bit more difficult. So it's a good thing to try. And I think also with sharing steps, sharing cars, sharing bikes, there must be a solution that when I come to Lyon with the train, something like that, that I can use already my app to get the train from Amsterdam to
It would
Lyon.
be absolutely
And
great.
then I come here and use the same app, or maybe another, my app, but it's helping the people here also with the same standards because it's talking the same standards. Then I can use a step that you have driving here to go from the station to my hotel, something like that.
Yeah, the same way as Uber changed the taxi business, that everywhere you are using Uber app and you do not have to find a proper number or look on a website to find a proper taxi. Anders, you are on the side of...
Yeah, just to me, we've had different ticketing systems forever. If I buy still today, if I buy a train ticket in Copenhagen,
yeah.
it's going to be a different ticketing system in another city, just in Denmark. If I go to Germany or Sweden, I need to go to a new system. Whether it's manual ticketing still or it's an app, then it's a different app. So this is not only for, of course, public transport is shared as well, but this is something we've been used to doing for years. I think the big difference is just that we have many more operators today. But then we have a twist saying that, as your example with the 7 electric kick scooter operators, they actually provide you a service that you can use in a different city, of course, provided that they're there. Same with car sharing. And I doubt very much they will ever share it because it is about data, and at the end of the day, it's a commercial company.
Yeah.
And what we've seen actually among our users is that using 1, 2, or 3 different apps is not the biggest issue. That is not top of their mind. Top of their mind is availability, and availability, and availability, and a high level of service. If we provide that, and one day the car's not, they'll use a different app and they'll switch back. It's the service at the end of the day, what they need, when and where they need it.
Yeah, sure, but the thing that I suppose we are all familiar with an app called WIM. So do you think that we can kind of WIM in every single city? Still, I do agree that it's all about the quality, but it's all about the freedom that you've got a chance to find everything in one place, as well as you're doing listening to music by Spotify or watching some movies through Netflix. I think it's all going the same way, and
I think the idea is good, but we have, I don't know, 20 or more doing the same as WIMP are doing. So I was out in Austria last week, and they have their own Wegfinder, which does basically the same. So which one will be the one? They're all going to compete for it, I'm sure. And at the end of the day, I still want to promote my company. I still want to have a relation with my customers as well. So I think it's a challenge.
But
yeah, it's not that you have to be the one. I think what we try to organize is, for example, with Moveabout, my members of Good Moves, they use my app, my platform, and when they are in your city or so, then they can find your cars, and via my app, can register and then exactly open the cars with the same app. So instead of also be a member in your organization, use your own membership when you're abroad, and of course you get paid because they use your cars, but they do not have to be also a member in your app or organization. And that is also the case with the charging infrastructure. It is still a member of the new motion, and it is via another operator. They get the energy, they get paid to that operator, but still they are not necessary to be a member of that operator. So
But who takes the risk? Do you take the risks then? Sorry. Do you take the risk of the person being who they are, they have a valid license and credit card, and it's not fraud? Because if they're not a member, then we haven't done the validation.
Those are the things that you have to talk about, exactly. That is also what happened with the charging infrastructure. It is a process that has to start somewhere, and it takes time, but it's the payment system, it is the operating, and in this case, when my customers are at your cars, it's my service to them that they can also drive very easily in a city where do not have cars. So that is the case that we have to organize that.
And
So I hope there will be possibilities to do that.
don't you think that being integrated means that you can find more and more customers? That it's a step towards mass market, let's call it this way? That, for example, when you combine, like in WIM, for example, like combine public transport and car sharing services, you've got an access to the very, very big group of customers who are using every day public transport. So it's like a chance for car sharing companies, electric scooter service renters, and so on and so on. And I think it's good for the customer at the very end as well.
Well, of course, I think we are all looking for how to increase the number of customers. So that's the upside in it. Of course, that's it. I think it's obvious, but the question is also what's the price of it, and what's the value to the users? What drives value to them? Is it that they don't get the same kind of information, same kind of security because it goes through one or two aggregators? Just because we get a customer.
We've done some research in Poland, and we found out that the availability, that's crucial. That we know that in one place we can find a proper way of transport, and we do not have to skip some applications and look which car is closer, but we can have in one app everything, and that's the most important thing, that we can find the proper solution for us. So Jochen, maybe you would like to add something?
Yeah. There are two sides on that kind of vision. The first side, from perspective of the consumer, I should say, if there is only one app that you can use in every city in Europe, everywhere, it's going to be the most easy app to use when you are looking for shared mobility. On the other hand, a bit of competition is leading towards more quality, and at this moment we are not facing a very mature market in shared mobility. The market is extensively growing exponentially, and there is a lot of innovation in the market parties in every country that are developing shared mobility initiatives. So I should say, don't hurry up with regulations at this moment and to start. I think the most important part is to bring those companies together and start with business integration of all kinds of forms. You're right that it cannot be the objective that you have 8 apps for one mobility solution in one city. That cannot be the case. But I do think that the companies that are growing, that are getting more mature, that they are thinking about business integration, that they are thinking how can we combine public transport with a shared electric vehicle that can park at the city borders, and then you can hire an electric bike to get to the home or anywhere, and that is also available for do the shopping and deliver it at your port, at your porch, yes. And it's also what I see as a consultant at this moment. I see the same thing happening with companies. Companies have a lot in Belgium. They have a lot of company cars, and now it used to be very simple. You used to be an employee, you get a new contract, you get a company car, you get one leasing company, and you have one car, a diesel car or a gasoline car, and you could drive. But now there is more a system approach to electric mobility and shared mobility, because the employee is no longer asking, in most cases, for a car. In fact, it was a part of his wage at this moment. But now the young people who are starting in consultancy firms, they are no longer asking for a car. They say, I live in the center of a city, I'll take public transport, and I will rent a bike, and I'll get wherever I want to be at this moment. So you need to see it as a system, as an integrated approach, even for company cars, where when they are growing to be electric throughout the world and in Europe and in Belgium, there are so many aspects that need to be delivered and need to be regulated in a company car with the question is, some of them are very simple, and an employee can ask, I have solar panels at home, can I integrate it with my company car? My employer will pay my energy bill, but how do I manage that with my solar panels? Because I want to use the energy from my solar panels myself, maybe for private use of my company car. How do I integrate that with smart metering, with energy billing, with and we are even talking about vehicle-to-grid subjects and stabilizing the connecting to the grid and flexibility options. So I won't hurry a bit because it's a really hard question that MAS is confronting the next couple of years, and I think the initiative of my neighbor here, the EMAS project, is a very good step in the right direction. But I won't hurry with regulations to go to one typical standard solution, because we are not there that the standard solution is already available, I think.
All right, thanks a lot. So we are moving to our next speaker, Christophe. Your company Blue Service Blue Systems, sorry for that, provides mobility as a service for cities all around the world. So please share with us your thoughts about the subject.
So I think to start with, I will try to summarize a little bit what I have heard in this very interesting panel. I think generally, if I can summarize this, we all agree that it's pretty complicated to achieve mobility as service, a mobility as a service that will be really organized throughout across the city. And somehow what I can hear is that somehow only the city can really manage and do something to make it happen properly. We have seen the future with the Renault video. And what we see on this video is really happy customer that what they can do is they can get what they want right away. They click on an app and they get something because it's just there. And this is somehow what's happening right now in cities, is that we see an explosion of mobility services. There are car sharing. An interesting example is the city of Paris, where actually Automotive was being operated over 7-8 years, and it was a huge and the largest electric vehicle car sharing service in the world, actually. And now it has been stopped, and now what's happening, I was discussing this with Renault just a few minutes ago, it's 10 car sharing operators are operating in Paris. Is that working or not? Well, the reality is it's complicated. But this is not the only thing. What we see happening in Europe and what happened last year in the US, it's the electric scooters. Electric scooters, it's not 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, like the fleet of the Automotive cars that was being operated in Paris last year. No, it's 10,000, 20,000, up to 40,000. In Los Angeles, it's 40,000. In Paris, it will be 40,000 right before the summer. So this is creating all another level of problems, with not only problems of parking, but problems of security, safety, people riding on the sidewalks, countersides on roads, with cars. So the problems that we were facing from a city perspective with car sharing and other sharing solutions, that scooters or whatever, with already having problems to park your car, to locate your car. The idea, at the end of the day, it's getting much more complicated for the city, and it's creating kind of a mess. So yes, I fully agree that the city needs to do something. And at the end of the day, there is only one solution to achieve this, is that the city is somehow forcing tomorrow to ask all mobility operators to share their data in real time. And this is not a dream. This is not something that is not existing, and I'm thanking Pierre SOULARD from the city of Lyon, because we are going to experience this in France for the first time. But this is something we are doing in the US, and there is a standard. Obviously, we need a standard to do that. if we're dealing with Uber, with Lyft, with Lime, with Birds, with Bluely, everybody needs to follow the same way. The same data set needs to be exchanged so that the city can get the information, but also somehow can provide information to the provider. And here what I've heard is like, we are creating a low emission zone. Very recently, the city of Lyon on pedestrian areas decided to lower the speed of the e-scooters. Obviously, it's super dangerous. But this can happen in London, where you already have the congestion charge and the toxicity charge, 3 boroughs. There, every car, every taxi company, because I mean, mobility as a service, it's taxis, it's ride-hailing companies, it's scooters, and obviously since cities need to deal with the pollution, it has to be electric right now, that's for sure. So mobility as a service is electric for sure right now. And you can easily create zone once you have the data where you say, okay, a ride-hailing company with a few diesel car cannot access this zone. And actually somehow with that data set, a city can say, I've seen one of your cars, you get an alert. I agree with you somehow, not getting right away with big enforcement or big fines process, but you can send alerts, you can measure the compliance. So, and you do the same with parking. Aggregating the mobility operators' data, it comes right away with aggregating the data from the parking operators, because you need somehow to organize your city so that people can have a good competition between each other. If the city of Paris is giving a 2,000 devices, let's say, license to operate in Paris, they will do the same for the other one. They want to be sure that everybody is having 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 devices on the ground. And somehow you want to see if everybody is competing the right way in the same area with maybe not one operator being at the right place to be at that moment. And that you need the data. So this is what we do. Blue Systems, it's a sister company of the Groupe Bolloré. And it's been 10 years that we are working with cities, and everything started, I mean, somehow last year in terms of developing those big platforms. The standard that is used right now is MDS, Mobility Data Standard. It's an open source standard, obviously, as the one that is now used in France for more than 3 years for parking. That is a totally open API as well. And those platforms are aggregating the data from all mobility operators and all parking operators, and somehow not only parking, but charge points operators, because a charge points operator is actually operating a dedicated bay for an electric vehicle. And somehow it has different rules as well. And to support EV uptake, this is what you need if you want to achieve this from a pure city perspective. So those data, obviously, you need to get them from the mobility operator. You need to force them to have them, and there is no private company that can do that. Only a city can do that. A private company can develop the tool, but then it's all on the IT and the responsibility and the controlship of a city. And to make it happening, obviously, the city needs to issue permit. Every cities in the world are issuing car sharing permit, scooters permit, taxis permit, ride-hailing permit, but it's all about you can actually operate in my city if you are sharing your data on the MDS standard. And for this year, if I'm taking the most recent sharing operations like the e-scooters, because they are causing such a mess because of the huge numbers of them everywhere, it's a 1-year permit. And what we have said, actually, we are not dealing with seven in Warsaw, it's good, but in Paris it's already 15. And in LA it's almost 20.
Right.
It's crazy between the no, but I mean, it's big. It's just to say it's why the city shall open the door for everybody. No, the idea as well is by measuring the compliance based on the policies, non-access to certain areas, behaving with a certain number of assets, but you can rate them all along the year, and at the end of the day, renew the permit or not, if someone is complying with the rules or not. And that's the idea, and to be applicable, obviously, not only to e-scooters, but to car-sharing companies. We, the Groupe Bolloré, is operating a few mobility as a services like Bluely in Lyon, and those companies will have to comply to the new rules, also from a pure car sharing perspective, not to park there. As an example, we may have stations, because it's stations based, at a different location where all of a sudden for the next 15 days it will no more possible to park because there is an event, there is something very specific. With getting the data, you can really see if the operator has actually informed and is managing, controlling the final user. The idea of this is, at the end of the day, the city will really be in control of those private sector and private companies, because why they all came into the cities? It's just because in the public offering was there, but there is more and more and more and more people living in cities. More and more vehicles in cities, it's more and more pollution. So that's why we all go now with electricity. But car sharing, reducing the number of cars and vehicles is very important, because there is another pollution, is the traffic. You will lose your time, and it's really annoying. And also every people, because there are more and more people, want something, everything right now, mobility as a service. I want to have something right away next to my door and right away. That's the thing that we want. So to deal with this, the city needs to reorganize everything. And that kind of platform can achieve it. And you were discussing about WIM, but tomorrow WIM, City Mapper, Move It, but they don't need to lose their time to partner with contract, but with every single operator. No, they connect directly to the city platform. Yeah. And that's it. And they can tomorrow have even a better service. Some cities, this is clearly their dream. It's even to have their own app, but behind the scene, it will be a city mapper, it will be a Move It, it will be just white labeled, and that's it. And then you can integrate everything, and the city can also somehow get a few money back to those investments. At the end of the day, it's really frustrating also for cities to see so many private operators doing business on their street without really supporting the cost of the maintenance of the whole infrastructure, the parking, the roads, the lights, and everything, and sometimes even the charge points. So that's somehow a way to register everything, control them, set up a list of policies and rules. At the end of the day, it can go up to fining process, because at the end of the day, maybe it will happen. But you can rate, and you can also show it and display it publicly. The parking aggregation of data is something that is really in 100 cities in France already for more than 2 years. And what it has allowed, it's pretty simple. The average number of in terms of usage, 80% of the people were actually buying a ticket. It's something that you can see in every cities in Europe or in North America. 20% are trying not to pay it. With such a platform, actually, it's impossible. It goes to 95% in Paris in just 2 years. Why? Because this platform obviously is connected to the team that are enforcing on site, helping them to really target where they need to patrol. So obviously, with the big data analysis behind the scene, you can identify really quickly. Okay, let's have the patrol in that direction today, in that direction at that time, because for sure it's here that we may see something. Because all the rest we see that it's being taken. Because the data set for parking is pretty simple. It's a license plate, the cost, and then the time for which you are allowed to go there, and that's it. And it's the same for mobility provider. You know exactly what's happening, where they are abandoned, where they are parked, if they are not moved. Something interesting for a city as well is having a car sharing operator that actually is not getting a good number of users. Seeing a car waiting for a customer for more than 5 days, it's annoying also for the city, because people around are complaining, why have you transformed this EV dedicated, this bay into a car sharing bay or an EV dedicated bay? Yeah. So the tool is giving a big possibilities, And this is not an idea that came from us. Obviously, it's something that has started in the US, and on which we jumped with the experience we gathered over the 10 years of experience with deploying car sharing services for only one big cities like Paris, because it's totally different. And what makes it working? It was one of your questions. It's also it was pretty okay with Automotive because it was really big and there were no competition. Now it's a little bit different, and from the end user perspective, you have 7 apps right now. But I think competition is really good. It's good for the end user as well, for the pricing perspective. But if it connects to a city platform like that, tomorrow it will be something pretty easy to control and to provide a really good mobility as a service from a pure city perspective. So at the end of the day, this is something that is happening. We're going to trial it in Lyon this year, and it's live in a few cities in the US. And what is actually interesting is that since there is a standard, and obviously you can't meet with Uber, Lime, and say, look, for Lyon you need to adapt and send me the data sets like this. In LA, like that. In Montreal, like that. No. By doing this in cities, actually somehow it's ready for the other cities. And that's why there will be a foundation of cities being created this year by cities, once again. This is something that will happen very soon. And you will see that in the news for sure, because it will happen in Europe and in the US. And this will really be a strong business support from the private sector, and also it's going to give the city the power that the city has in the past with public transportation, but now with the explosion with private transportation, but they will take the control again on those private sectors.
All right, it all sounds incredible, really. Just one short question. Where it is happening right now? Who is the most advanced city? Where are the examples, the best practice?
So I can say one thing. I said that the standard is called MDS. So it's an open source one. So everybody can contribute. And right now you can find it on the GitHub from the city of Los Angeles. So the city of Los Angeles, with the mayor Eric Garcetti, is the mayor that actually took the leadership of this initiative to actually fight officially with big companies like Uber, Lyft, coming now with Jump, because Jump is Uber. And it's such a mess in the cities, and they came in just a few weeks with 40,000 scooters. And the number of ride-hailing companies has nothing to do compared to what we have in Europe. They don't have a lot of taxis, but they have like 40,000 ride-hailing cars on the road, creating traffic and everything. So they wanted, with a few other cities, to find a way to do that. So they got a big funding from the US DOTs with regards to smart cities and smart mobility projects a few years ago. Now it's live. And the foundation will come with actually 12 cities and certainly a few from Europe to join this foundation that is going to drive obviously the specification and the standard to make it happen, because obviously the more cities are on board with this, but the better it will be for them to take control over the giants. The GAFA one, or somehow.
All right, thanks a lot.
Sorry, I think that we can summarize that if we want to succeed, we have to work in a collaborative mode, private and public, I think. It's very important.
That's right, I do agree. We've got some time for some final remarks. If you'd like to add something, how the future of transport will look like, mobility as a service, feel free to comment. Would you like?
I can add something. It's exactly the same as Corinne. Right now, the vast majority of the people we can see here, having a booth here, are from the private sector, obviously. And we are doing this because we want to deliver the best services, and within the Groupe Bolloré, we are also doing services like that with Bluely, with Blue LA, with Blue SG in Singapore. And to have the best service, it has to work perfectly with the city. And when you are having the possibility to operate in different cities, in different continents, you can see that it's working in this city, but not in that one.
Sure.
Right now, in a city like in Paris, it's complicated. It needs to be clearly reorganized. And it's all about having a good workshops and a good relationship with the different operators, not only car sharing operators, the city, the parking operators, the different arrondissements as well, because they are recently, the 13e arrondissement, they just get rid of all scooters. As the city of Paris had just decided to have a permit for 60 euros per year. So it's really important that we are all doing business in different segments, but it's only possible in this very specific segment when we have a very good relationship with the cities. And that's also, it goes both ways. We need to push for solutions, and,
Sure.
and they need to regulate reasonably.
Thanks a lot, Jochen.
Yeah, to conclude, I think the city indeed has a very important role to initiative and the sharing mobility, but I think the consumer will have the last word, and if you have an integrated shared electric mobility solution for that consumer that can use it and that is feeling really well with it, I think there is a big opportunity and a big future for MaaS, for mobility as a service all over Europe and all over the world, in fact.
All right, thank you very much for that. I suppose we are done here. It was a great to have this panel discussion. Thank you very much, and have a nice EVS. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have to catch my plane right now. Can I leave?